Hello 102ers and welcome to the last week of the first half of the class. After this one, it's all going to be moving downhill very quickly. Are you ready for that? Did you know that in the month of October, if the Phillies continue their winning ways and play in the World Series, there's a possibility that out of the 31 days of October, Philadelphia sports, now that is the Eagles, the Phillies, the Flyers, and the Sixers, there are only 7 days where there's no Philly teams playing at all. 3 of those days have already happened. So that means there's only 4 days for the rest of the month, if the Phillies make the World Series, that are not represented by Philly sports. Crazy, isn't it? Regardless, let's get going. Sorry, I sometimes forget that not everyone is a sports fan. Let's continue with the academics, shall we? As always, here is the weekly announcement. Please make sure to read it all the way through. All necessary information and links are right here for you to see. It should be posted clearly on the opening page of our class, just as it always is, and it's also emailed to your Delaware Tech account. So no excuses. Just so we're clear, I always like to point out that the semester-long masterclass schedule is right over here on the right-hand side. By clicking on this link right here, you will get to this page. I have already scrolled down helpfully to Unit 3, week number 7. So if you want to scroll all the way down there, you can follow along with me. And we're seeing that we are indeed starting Unit 3. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 documents to read and 1, 2 things to submit. Now, one of these things, the Unit 2 comparative research essay, is going to be a biggie. That's worth, I believe, 20% of your grade, if I'm not mistaken. So I would highly recommend getting that in. The other one is very small, very quick, very easy. Regardless, this is going to be a long video, so let's just get started. In what is an argumentative research paper, boom, there we go. It's your first document, which shows you, well, you guessed it, what is an argumentative research paper. This is your big paper, folks. It's going to be by far worth the most points of anything you've done this semester, and the first 2 papers built towards this. It's not due for a while, week 14, but it's good to start thinking about it now. Once again, the details that you need are here, including your samples and so forth. And look at that. Oh, here are the requirements. That's great. But guess what? I have supplementary material for you. I have a document that I've already posted to your page. I have already put it inside the announcement. And honestly, if you click on it, you will see this page right here. To start off really quickly, as you can see, the biggest change is it's now 7 to 8 pages. That is up from, 3 to 4 in Unit 1 and 4 to 6 in Unit 2. So now it's a big mamma jamma. Remember, I want 7 pages minimum, not 6 pages in a paragraph, okay? After that, everything sort of falls into the same category. APA formatting, source material is needed. You're going to probably have 7 to 8 sources. You're going to use CSET. Only third-person point of view should be used. Avoid first person, I, me, my, our, we, us. And avoid second person, you, your, yourself. We have everything split up, which I am not going to go over today. But we have our introduction. We have our background section. Your argument here is going to be a minimum of 3 reasons, your CSET paragraphs, right? Your counter-argument and rebuttal will probably be 2 paragraphs, 1 each. And then your conclusion, okay? 7 to 8 pages. So 2 pages of instruction. And then we have a lot. We have a lot of sample here. Have our APA title page, and then we go right into it. As you can see, everything is formatted exactly as I want to see in your paper, okay? So all of these different things here are going to show us exactly what you're doing. As you can see here, I've actually supplied you with 4 claims. Counter-argument, and then we have a rebuttal and our conclusion before, oh, look at this, it's finished. Do we put our references on the same page? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. We go down to the next page by using the page break function. And we have all of our references. If they do not fit on a single page, that's fine. You can have multiple pages of references. Just make sure that every document you list on the references page appears within the paper itself, okay? So, that's that. Of course, after seeing your future, you can find out what a classical argument is by clicking on this link here and going here. Basically, there are kind of two videos here that they want you to watch. I'm not a big fan of this page. It seems pretty simple. Let me try to explain it for you. An argument is not just two or more people yelling at each other, throwing things, kicking over refrigerators and microwaves. An argument is multiple perspectives on a single topic. It also requires support for each side, or else we're looking at a simple assertion, which becomes more the understanding of an argument that maybe a lot of you already know. I'm right, you're wrong. No, I'm right, you're wrong. Then there's finger pointing, yelling, spitting, screaming. That's what most people picture. But the argument itself features a few key elements that you need to know. An argument always begins with a thesis, the statement that can be proven true or false. Once the thesis is stated, then the person stating the thesis has to prove that thesis. It's not just a matter of saying, this is what I believe, so disprove me, because that's actually a logical fallacy known as burden of proof. Remember, all those TV shows and movies that you've watched, you know where the scenes took place in the courtroom? The prosecution has to prove their point. They have to provide evidence for their theory. They cannot just state an idea and hope that everyone else does the work. Same thing here. Once you state your thesis, you have to provide solid evidence to break down the thesis into smaller claims that you can use to prove your entire idea. You'll need at least 3 smaller claims to show how your side of the argument is the stronger side. Once you develop your side, you must be open to the prospect that your opponent, or the other side of the argument if you don't want to view this as an adversarial thing, has at least 1 or 2 good points of their own. So the counter-argument will be their opportunity to illustrate the opposing side to your thesis. Since you will not be team writing this paper, you will have to do both your argument and the counter-argument, which means you must be fair and complete with the opposing side. Additionally, you have to support the opposing side, which means showing how, in some cases, your side is a bit weak. Once you go through the counter-argument, you then provide the rebuttal. This is where you can show your reader how the counter-argument, while possibly having a couple of good points, is still nowhere strong enough to overwhelm your original argument. If it did, you may want to rethink your original approach. Overall, the basics of argumentation, they're pretty similar all throughout the world, and even throughout the last few millennia. We haven't really thought about changing how arguments are done because it's worked so well since 100 years before year 0. That's when it was formalized, believe it or not. You gotta love those ancient Greeks. So, we've gone through these two. The next one, the qualities of a good research question, there we go, is actually probably one of my favorite pages made for the class because I don't have any issues with it. In order to move forward with our paper, we need to have a solid direction for our research, which begins with our research question. So, how do we create it? By looking at this page. So make sure that it can be answered in an objective way through research. That means objective. Many people can find different ways to look at it depending on their own thoughts and ideas. Okay? Number 2, a good research question can be answered using existing information of a collection of information. That means you can't say, oh, we're not alone in the universe, and eventually we'll find that out. No. You need information that exists now. A good research question hasn't already been answered, or if it has been answered completely, or it hasn't been answered completely, or hasn't been answered for your specific context. Do not argue that cigarettes cause cancer. We already know that, okay? You have to figure things out based upon these 3 basic rules, okay? Once you think of it that way, you can glide down the process knowing that you have a solid base. Next, we have this one, the research questions and search term tips. And here, it's not bad. I mean, it shows you an easy step to move from your research question to your claim that you can prove with your argument. It's not simply a loss of one or two words. You can't just take out the question mark and throw a period in there, okay? So you have to really shift your thinking a little bit to take care of the exact statement. So look through this page and see the examples that are given. I found that it's easier to actually do this than to explain this. Once you start putting your own questions in the position of the sample here, you'll be able to see how things start to shift in your mind. So, why should violence against animals be illegal is the question. The statement, animal cruelty should be punished just as harshly as violence done against humans. And truthfully, I would add the because clause here. You know, animal violence should be illegal because, okay? What legal actions can be taken against people who commit violence against animals? The legal actions that should be levied against individuals who are abusing animals are because. Make sure that you have all of that in there. You have different keywords down here that you can look at. You can actually check out through EBSCOhost or SERS depending on your topic. All of that will help you. Finally, thesis statements, writing and importance, is a general review of everything you've ever learned about thesis statements over the course of your English language education. 1, 2. Now, if I were you, I'd focus on these samples, take a look at the no-fault divorce ones, as well as the job market one, right down here, because they're your best two, honestly. The drug education thesis here is not awful, but it definitely needs work, as it's very general and doesn't necessarily focus the reader very well. Taking a look at the no-fault divorce, you're actually making a claim. Absolute divorce is not the best bet. No-fault divorce is. I keep mumbling and stumbling here. And here is why. There is a because clause here, even though there is no because in the sentence. Compared to an absolute divorce, no-fault divorce is less expensive, promotes fairer settlements, and reflects a more realistic view of causes for marital breakdown. There's 3 claims right there in the single sentence. Jumping down to your job market, in today's crumbling job market, a high school diploma is not significant enough education to land a stable, lucrative job. Now, you're not continuing along with your claim here. However, you are indeed setting up your argument by saying it's not good enough to just have a high school diploma. You must also have a college diploma. There's your argument. In here, we're talking about drugs. You know what? You're saying, yeah, we should do it at an early age, or, expose the children to drug education at an early age. But it doesn't really go much further beyond that. And then, of course, the Shakespeare thesis over here is just god-awful. This was written by someone who wanted to appear very smart and educated, but fell very far short of the mark. Excuse me. Ooh. Okay. Ignore this one altogether. The rest of the page, again, is a review. You've learned about the thesis statement in practically every stage of your education, so this is just something to get your brain remembering what you've already learned. If you had to narrow this page down to a single idea, I'd go with this one here. Where is it? It's this one here. A thesis must be supportable, and it must be specific. If you cannot support your ideas, they don't count. They are assertions, and they won't work well for your argument. If your thesis, like the drug education one above, is just so all-encompassing that anything can fit in there, you're casting your net far too wide. The best way to write your thesis is to think about what you want to get across in your argument, and then try your best to put in a third-person perspective rather than giving an I think, I feel, or I believe statement. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel. I don't care what you believe. I care what you can prove. If you can't prove your idea, then there are simply assertions at play, and they're not worth my time. If you can prove the evidence, if you can provide the evidence and support, then I am all too happy to listen to you and what you've got to say. Whew, that was a lot. I knew this video would be a long one. We have 4 pages of script, and we're just over 15 minutes now, but we're not done yet. So, I'm sorry. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we have 2 assignments this week. The Unit 2 paper, as well as the building research questions for Unit 3. Easy, right? First, I want to take a few minutes to talk about your Unit 2 paper, just in case you've got questions. I'm planning on a quick overview, so if you have any questions, please reach out early in the week. Okay? Here's all the information that you need in one place. Shows you exactly what's going to happen and where we're doing it and so forth and so on. Here's the rubric if you want to see how you're being graded. But like I've showed you before, the better way of looking at this is this one. Okay? This is the one I made you. And it is indeed a Unit 2 comparative essay, directions and sample. You've got all of your requirements. This paper must be between 4 and 6 pages. You need 2 sources that you haven't used yet, which means don't use the sources from Unit 1. You can use third person throughout the paper, except in the exploratory synthesis section, where you're going to use I, me, my, which is first person. Still, don't use second person at all. You're going to be having a 1-paragraph introduction, a 1-paragraph background, at least 2 paragraphs in comparing perspectives, at least 1 paragraph in exploratory synthesis, and at least 1 paragraph of a conclusion. So I believe that's 6 altogether, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minimum. So your introduction, once again, it's a regular, normal introduction. However, the one thing you are going to need more than anything else is you need to end the introduction with a synthesis question. A question, my friends, that means a question mark. If you provide a declarative sentence here with a period, or worse yet, an exclamation point, your paper will fall. It will not fail, it will just fall. So please make sure that you read this, understand this, and remember that your synthesis question must introduce the overall argument leading into the development of your paper. Your background section is going to be very brief. It's going to introduce both of your sources that you're using within this paper: authors, titles, years, central purposes, which means theses, anything that's tying them together, anything that's, we need to know for what's coming up. It's not that long, but it's going to basically set the table for what's about to come. The next 3 paragraphs minimum are going to be the most important ones. Comparing perspective, which you're going to have argument point 1 in 1 paragraph, argument point 2 in another paragraph, and hell, if you want to do 3 and 4 and 5 argument points, go for it. I am all for that. But make sure that each source that you have found is mentioned in every single paragraph of the comparing perspective section. Okay? This is where you find the elements that both sources bring up equally. Okay? After that, the most important paragraph of English 101 as well as English 102, which you are currently enrolled in, it's the exploratory synthesis. I tell my in-class sections that this paragraph right now will illustrate to your instructor, that would be me, that you are now standing up on your own 2 feet and you are walking tall. You are illustrating that you are thinking, you are understanding, and you are capable of having this argument and discussion with anybody else because you have learned a little bit more about your topic than they already know. Take your time and look through the sample to make sure that you see exactly what sort of elements might go in your exploratory synthesis. Finally, you're going to have a very brief conclusion, and the main point of this conclusion is that question you asked in the introduction, you're going to answer it here in the conclusion, and that last sentence will end up becoming your thesis statement for Unit 3. Okay? As it says here, a sample of the completed essay appears on the next few pages, and here it is, pages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We have our title page. Please make sure that you follow this exactly. One thing that a lot of people do is, for some reason, you numerically abbreviate your date. Please do not put down 10/07/25. Just take a few extra seconds and type in OCTOBER space 7, 2025. Okay? Just spell it out. You know my name, make sure it's there. You know your name, at least I hope you do, and that takes care of that. We use a page break to go down to the second page. Please notice that there is nowhere on this paragraph that it says introduction. What we've done is we've taken our title from the title page and we've copied and pasted it on page 2. And we have our introduction here, finalized by our synthesis questions. And there's no introduction, so don't write introduction anywhere, okay? Underneath that, we have our background information introducing our 2 sources. This one just happens to be by Elizabeth Gershoff and Susan Perry. So we have that element right here. We introduce it. We have it there. It is basically a half a page. That's it. We start with our comparing perspectives and then showing me that is the first argument point here. Down here, we have our second argument point. If you take a look at this, we're looking at practically a full page for each, right? Well, maybe 2/3 of a page for each. But that's still really detailed. Now, if you have a direct quote that is 40 or more words, you have to format it in what's called a long quote format. If you have one of these things, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you. But you're going to start it on its own line and indent the entire quote by a 1/2 inch. When you're done, you're going to end your citation and go right back to writing your paper. Okay? Make sure that you are using your in-text citations throughout. We have Perry 2016, Para 18. It works. Then we have our exploratory synthesis. A nice, big, blocky paragraph. I have a clear understanding. I can certainly say I had an existing opinion. I still have the same opinion. I kept an open mind. My opinion. I can still say that I am still opposed. All of these I's and me's and my's are perfectly welcome in this paragraph. Finally, we have our conclusion to wrap everything up. And as you can see, it is very, very brief. So that question you asked at the beginning, it is answered right there in one sentence that becomes your thesis statement in Unit 3. Then we get into our references, again, page break, and we have the references in order of alphabet, not in order that they appeared in your paper. G in Gershoff comes before P in Perry. All right? How's that sound? That was a quick overview since we talked about it before. If you have any questions, reach out and I'm more than willing to help you out. I included a link to that sample again in the announcements so you have yet another opportunity to look at it and not lose points on formatting. Please make sure to follow all requirements and expectations. Okay, so let's take a look at the last thing you have to do. It is, yes, another assignment, but no, it is not really terrible at all. We click on it, and honestly, you're going to be doing this in my own formatting. So what I'm going to do is show you that, yes, all of the instructions are here, but let's take a look at what it looks like in my document. Here it is. I added a couple of extra prompts here, but for the most part, I'm trying to get you to give me detailed information. So what is your general topic again? What was your thesis question? You can take that right from your paper that you're just going to submit also. Then we have our research questions. Write for me 4 questions that generated thought processes in your head that will allow you to find solid source material to answer those questions and to propel your thesis statement forward. Okay? I'm going to show you a sample in just a minute to kind of illustrate that. What is the tentative position on your topic? If you want to think of it this way, what's the answer to this question? And put that right here. right? And then tell me 4 reasons, step 3, why you believe that your thesis is strong enough and supportable. So why do you think it is? Don't just say, because I have numbers, because it's cool, because you're stupid. Like, don't give me dumb answers, okay? Again, I've got a sample for you. I'm going to show that to you in just a minute. And then finally, just so you understand who you're talking to, who is your audience? There's 2 of us, me and your peers, because you're going to be presenting this information to them in Unit 4. So answer these questions. What do you think most of your audiences feel about your feels about your topic? What do you believe that most people know about your topic? What knowledge do you believe that we all have about your topic right now? And what knowledge do you think we need to have for understanding your topic? So let's do a little magic trick. Ta-da! So as you can see here, through the magic of editing, we have the sample paper. You do not have to highlight this. I did it to kind of show you that this material here is exactly what I plugged in. I'm talking about cybersecurity and global relations. My thesis question, should countries unite to fight the rising tide of cyber terrorism and cybercrime, or should they continue to work independently? Then I come up with 4 research questions that I can look up. I'm not going to read them all out. You can read them when you look at them. It's linked in the document itself. Right down here, download a copy of the sample right here. See, it says sample. It's a nice big capital letter. There it is. And then I've answered my question in my tentative position on my topic. There it is. I'm saying, yeah, everybody should band together to do this. I give reasons for support. I didn't once say, because I'm right. I believe my position in this argument is strong because the internet is omnipresent, and there are no virtual borders to hold criminals to local exploitation. Oh, that's a good one, huh? So I have all of these elements why I think I'm right. We already know that you think you're right. Tell me why. And then finally, who am I talking to? I was imagining that I wasn't the teacher, but I was a student. So I basically answered these questions as honestly as I could, okay? This is something that if you take seriously, it'll probably take you maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Once you're done your paper, that's easy, okay? And that's the gist, folks. I know it was a long one. I mean, hell, it's going to be about 28 minutes. But it's a new unit, so there was a lot of material to get through. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Until then, enjoy this GIF of the wild kratts. My kids love that show. Good luck. Have a great weekend.